Welcome to another edition of Tubi Tuesdays on House of Shadows and Ink. I'm your host, Kevin Lucia. So I've got some great films, some bangers to talk about this week, and some other ones that maybe not quite that good, but they're still very interesting films. Why don't we just dive right in? Now, the best thing about Tubi is when you just log on to Tubi and suddenly there's this big movie you've been waiting to watch. Maybe you didn't feel like renting it. Maybe you already watched it once, but you don't want to rent it again. And you log into Tubi, and there it is. That's our first movie today, Dark Harvest, based on the novel of the same name by Norman Partridge. Popped up on Tubi, so I can't say enough. If you are a Halloween fan, go rush and check this one out. Dark Harvest takes place in the 50s in a small, isolated town out in the country where they have a very strange ritual, very deadly ritual. Every year in the fall, something grows in the cornfield, and on Halloween night, it is let loose to terrorize this small town. The boys of the town, those who have all turned 16, it is their job to hunt it down and kill it. And the winner, his family gets a trade-up. Dad gets a new car, Mom gets a new house, and the one who wins gets this huge check and a nice fancy car, and he gets to take off and pursue his dreams. This is a great film. Okay? In many ways, some people are going to love it, maybe not love it because of the dialogue, because of the 50s setting. It's really, some of the dialogue really crackles. It's really, really nice. It did its best to imitate Norman Partridge's wonderful prose. And there's a wonderful twist in this movie, too, because we have a young boy named Richie, whose brother, Jim, won the year before, which means he's not allowed to do the run now. But he's had enough of rules, and he's going to join the run tonight, and things are never going to be the same ever again. Dark Harvest. My next one is a little bit of an interesting film that I still have not figured out how I feel about, and that's called The Wicker Tree. The Wicker Tree is about two Christian missionaries from the U.S. who are going to Scotland to minister to those poor, lost Scots. Beth is a singer, her cowboy boyfriend is coming with them, and she is going to sing and perform concerts and save their souls. And to her great honor, they have decided to elect her their May Queen, and her boyfriend their laddie. Now, this is a strange film. I really thought I was in for folk horror along the lines of Midsommar, and what you got is a movie which I'm not sure if they thought they were a horror comedy or... The acting is great. Acting is great. Even features a brief bit with the legendary Christopher Lee. Filmed well, production values are good, and the plot is there. The plot is there for a very, very Wicker Man-esque, Midsommar-esque film, but it's filled with these moments that are kind of genuinely funny. But it doesn't seem... And the music, too, like, what's missing in this movie is dread. There's absolutely no dread whatsoever. Like, we watch the stuff that's happening, and these are all great horror set pieces. Let's just say that the laddie usually does not end up well at the end of this celebration. Neither does the May Queen. But it didn't seem to deliver a consistent tone throughout the movie. So I watched it, I enjoyed it, had some fun. I don't really know what they were going for. If they were going for horror that's dripping with dread, well, they forgot to add the dread. If they're going for a somewhat interesting horror comedy, it's not funny enough to be a horror comedy because it's trying to be serious. It just doesn't quite work. But it's still an interesting film. So, The Wicker Tree. Our next film is a good film that I've actually seen twice. And this is the curse of being a Tubi savant or a Tubi gourmet is that you watch so many movies on Tubi's and then you forget the name of the movie and then you start watching it again. You're like, oh, I've already watched this. But I decided to watch this one straight through. It's called The Woods. So The Woods is by Terror Films, which they've got some pretty good stuff. I could be wrong. I'm not going to look it up on my computer right now. Probably should have looked it up ahead of time, right? Anyway, I'm pretty sure they're the ones that are responsible for the Hell House Incorporated movies, and they do some really good stuff. So in The Woods, a young woman is being interviewed by a radio show about her harrowing experiences out in the woods when she gathered a bunch of old high school friends together to go on a hike, kind of like one last time before they go off and do all their things. The problem is one of the girls, her name's Amy, she seems just a little off. Her circumstances are different than everyone else's. She's not going to get a chance to move away. She's going to have to stay right there in that small town with her abusive mother. So right from the get-go, you sense there's something off there. Of course, we're doing this movie in flashbacks with the framing device of her having an interview with a radio host because he's interviewing her after the tragedy where all her friends died and she's the only survivor. So that's a really nice setup right there. The only thing about this movie that I was a little unsure of is whether or not there was a supernatural angle. There seemed to be one scene where a character was literally disappearing, but we kind of don't come back to that. But there is the hint that the woods is strange and plays an effect on people. And it's just a good film. It's a really nice, tight film. That'll keep you guessing a little bit, and the ending's a little bit different than you would expect it to be. The Woods. Our next movie is Bed Rest. Bed Rest is kind of an interesting film. Obviously, as you would expect, it's about a young pregnant wife who's experiencing some difficulties. So she took a fall, and they've prescribed her a bed rest for the rest of her pregnancy. Now they've moved into, as usual, an old house. It's kind of creepy. Sounds. Is it haunted? The interesting angle here is she's already had a miscarriage, this woman. And she starts seeing what she thinks is the ghost of her unborn child as like a 2 or 3-year-old. And he keeps warning her that she wants my sister. Well, who wants her sister? They hire an aide to help out with her, and she's a little sketchy. She really is. But things are not quite as they seem here. There is something in this house that does want her child. It's actually got a nice... It's one of those movies where it's a horror movie. It's got a nice little payoff at the end. It's kind of like a positive, uplifting film. So, Bed Rest. My next one is Heretics, a found footage film about a bunch of these teenagers that go to an old haunted house one night when they're partying and realize they've wandered into the middle of a cult that's going to chase them down and kill them all. Eric Roberts is in this again. So maybe Eric Roberts is in late in life is vying to be the new John Saxon, where he shows up in every single horror movie, every single lower budget horror movie. And he plays a priest, and he plays it pretty straight. He's not in it for very long. But this cult, it's from the members of the town. So it's like they'll beat somebody up who's chasing them, and it's my dad. It has a pretty bleak ending, but again, you get into a situation like that, that's probably what's going to happen. But it was a nice little film. Oh no, it's not this film. It's the next one I have a complaint with. No, I really liked this film. It was a good film. Terror Films puts out good stuff. So, Heretic. My next one is the Coffin footage. This is a real kind of micro-budget, small indie movie. It's not bad. It certainly isn't bad. It does have that one little thing that I've never really been fond of, is when found footage movies then add theme music and special effects and stuff like that. It's one thing where we'll get something on the beginning that says this has been turned into a documentary. And like, for example, the Hell House movies are posed as documentaries after the fact. So having a little bit of mood music in there makes sense because they're leaning into the idea that these have been produced by a film studio. And I've always kind of give found footage movies a little bit of a side eye when it's just a guy whose camera's found and then suddenly there's mood music on it. But anyway, this guy's an animator. He's trying to start his own web comic series, and he's trying to film it and do the whole YouTube thing stuff behind it. And strange things starts happening around the house. And that's it. This movie, I gotta give it points for heart, but it really amounts to a guy running around with a camera, freaking out about things and falling and rolling over and then bumping into doors and stuff. And there is a plot in there about a reincarnated serial killer. I may have been wrong, but it was unclear to me as to whether or not the ghost of the serial killer was haunting him and trying to possess his body, or if the animator was actually the reincarnated serial killer and he's fighting his transformation. It's not a bad film, but it's not one of the best ones that I've seen out there. So those are my picks this week for Tubi Horror Tuesdays.